I still remember the clinking of silverware and the tight, suffocating air of that last family dinner. It was supposed to be a celebration. Patrick had landed another promotion, one he didn't earn. My mother had cooked roast beef, just the way Dad liked it. I brought a bottle of wine, thinking maybe, just maybe, it would smooth things over. It didn't. Dad barely looked at me. He raised a toast to Patrick's ambition and natural leadership. Patrick smirked at me across the table, and my mother avoided my eyes. Then my father said it, loud and clear. "Claire, when are you going to contribute something meaningful to this family? You've never brought anything good to us, ever." The room went silent, except for the sound of my heart pounding in my ears. I could have cried, I could have screamed, but I didn't. I just stood up, placed my napkin down gently on the plate, and looked at each of them. Really looked. They didn't expect me to leave. Not for real. But I did. That night, I packed up my tiny apartment and moved 2 towns over. I didn't call, didn't write. I blocked their numbers. I erased myself from their lives like they always seemed to want me to. What they didn't know was that while they were busy mocking my lack of real success, I was quietly building a business under a different name. I worked day and night, slept on a couch, and learned everything I could about logistics, retail, and strategy. 2 years have passed. I now own a warehouse, 3 online storefronts, and a growing client base in 5 states. I still go by Claire Bennett. Only no one in my family has a clue that Claire Bennett LLC just got featured in Modern Business Monthly. This morning, I got an email from my father. "Claire, I know it's been a while. Patrick is struggling with some things. We could really use your help." I didn't respond. Not yet, but I will. And when I do, it won't be what they expect. I didn't open the email for a week. Every morning, I saw it sitting there, bold, unread, staring back at me like a wound that refused to scab over. From Leonard Bennett. No subject line. Just the body of the message, visible in the preview pane. "Claire, I know it's been a while. It took me 7 days to click on it. Not because I was scared of what it said, but because I wasn't. I expected desperation, and I wasn't disappointed. Claire, I know it's been a while. Patrick has hit a rough patch. Some bad investments, and his business partner pulled out. We're trying to help, but we're in over our heads. If you could talk to him, maybe advise him, it would mean a lot." Advise him? I had to laugh. Patrick wouldn't have taken advice from me if I paid him to. And my father? He used to call my ideas cute hobbies, not worth discussing at the table. But something in his tone was different now. Less commanding, more hesitant. That was new. Still, I didn't reply. Instead, I spent the afternoon in my office, a sunlit room above the warehouse I own, flipping through invoices and contracts, listening to the low hum of forklifts below. This place was mine. Every shelf, every barcode, every single decision, built with my 2 hands and sleepless nights. No handouts, no family support, just grit. My assistant, Lydia, knocked on the door. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded, but she didn't look convinced. "You've been quiet since Monday." I shrugged. "Just ghosts." Lydia didn't press. She never does. She knows I don't talk much about the past. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake thinking about how easily they'd cast me out, and how now, when things were unraveling, I was suddenly worth contacting. I thought about Patrick's smug face, about my mother's silence, and about the way my father always looked through me, never at me. Then I thought about something else. The small house my parents mortgaged to help Patrick expand his ventures. He always called them ventures, never businesses. The man couldn't manage a lemonade stand if someone else wasn't squeezing the lemons for him. Still, I couldn't deny it. The email stirred something in me. Not sympathy. Not yet. But curiosity. What kind of trouble did he really get into? I opened a new tab and searched Patrick's name. And there it was, an article buried in the local business news. Local entrepreneur faces legal action after clients file claims of fraud. I leaned back in my chair. So, that's what this was about. The article was vague, probably written by someone trying not to get sued. But the words investigation, disputed transactions, and client losses exceeding 6 figures painted a clear enough picture. I stared at the screen for a long time. This wasn't just a business going under. This was a slow-motion car crash. I knew Patrick. He wasn't malicious. He was careless, entitled. The kind of man who thought charm was a substitute for substance. But fraud? That meant real people had been hurt. I clicked through the comments. Someone named TG had written, "My mother lost her retirement fund because of this guy. No remorse." Another read, "He promised my brother a return in 6 months. That was a year ago." And still, they came to me. Not because they saw my value, but because they had nowhere else to go. I stood up and crossed the room, pushing open the small window above the street. The wind was cold, the kind that made your skin sting. Below, delivery trucks beeped and backed into position. Workers in branded hoodies moved with purpose. This world, my world, was real, earned, and it had nothing to do with them. Later that evening, I sat at the kitchen counter of my apartment. A warm, modern space I renovated myself, staring at the email again. I typed one sentence. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" I didn't send it, but I left it open, like a door I might eventually walk through. The next morning, Lydia met me at the coffee station. She held out her phone. "Claire, I think you should see this." It was a photo, grainy, but clear enough. Patrick, looking pale and disheveled, sitting alone outside a courthouse. A local reporter had snapped the picture for a follow-up piece. "They say he's lost most of his assets. His house is up for auction," Lydia said softly. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not pity, not quite, but something close to disbelief. How does someone fall that far and still not say a word to the people they once disowned? I muttered. Lydia gave me a look I couldn't quite read. "You mean you?" I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the truth was, I wasn't sure whether I wanted an apology or a reckoning. By Friday, the email was still sitting in my drafts folder, unsent, unchanged. I kept reopening it, as if expecting the words to morph into something wiser, kinder, more decisive. Instead, I buried myself in work. We were onboarding a new distributor in Denver, and the warehouse team needed final approval on layout changes. It should have consumed my attention, but my thoughts kept drifting. At lunch, Lydia placed a folder on my desk and hesitated. "There's something else," she said carefully. "I got a call on the office line. A woman named Donna left a message, said she's your mother." I froze. Lydia was quiet. I didn't say anything. I just took down the number, but she sounded different, not like someone asking for help, more like someone asking for forgiveness. I took the note from her hand. It was written in Lydia's careful script, a 10-digit number and 2 words beneath it. "Please call." I folded the paper and slid it into my wallet. Later that evening, I stood in my bathroom, staring at myself in the mirror. The woman who looked back at me wasn't the girl who used to lower her eyes at family dinners. This woman ran payroll. She signed contracts. She paid her own health insurance. But hearing my mother's name, her actual voice on that voicemail, did something to me. It cracked something I'd worked hard to keep sealed. Because through it all, she had remained silent. She had let my father's judgment go unchecked. She had watched Patrick mock me and said nothing. And yet she had also stood in the doorway the night I left, clutching a dish towel like a lifeline. She hadn't tried to stop me, but I remember how her mouth had parted, like there was something she wanted to say, something she couldn't. I opened my laptop again, found the draft email, and deleted it. Instead, I started a new one. "Mom, I got your message. What's really going on?" This time, I hit send. The reply came the next morning. It wasn't long, and it wasn't polished, just plain text, riddled with typos, a sign, I thought, of how rattled she was. "Claire, thank you for writing back. I didn't think you would. Things are very bad. Patrick is in trouble. Real trouble. Leonard won't admit how bad it is, but he's angry all the time. The house might go. I'm scared. I don't know who to talk to anymore. I shouldn't be saying this, but I miss you. I do. Every day." I reread the last line over and over. "I miss you. I do." It was the first honest thing she'd said to me in years, but part of me couldn't stop asking, where was that honesty when I needed it most? Still, something shifted in me. I asked for a video call. She agreed, and we spoke the following evening. I hadn't seen her face in 2 years. She looked older, thinner. Her hair was more gray than I remembered, and her voice cracked when she said, "Hi." We danced around the past for a while, vague questions, surface-level answers. Then I asked about Patrick. "He's been drinking," she said quietly. "And staying out late. Blames everyone but himself. Leonard keeps saying it's just a rough patch. But Claire, I found a bottle of pills in his room. I don't even know what they were." "And you're still letting him live there?" Her eyes welled. "He's my son." "And I wasn't?" That silenced her. I didn't say it to wound. I said it because I needed her to finally hear it. "I didn't know how to defend you," she said, her voice trembling. "Your father, he's not easy. He always thought Patrick was the one who would carry the family. I didn't want to make it worse for you by picking a fight at every dinner." "You picked silence," I said, "and it said enough." We sat in that stillness. Then she whispered, "I know." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was the first time my mother didn't pretend. And somehow, that hurt and healed at the same time. A week passed before I heard anything else. I busied myself with work, but it felt thinner now, like I was moving through routines instead of building something. Every time my phone buzzed, I half expected it to be my mother again. Instead, it was Lydia who walked into my office one afternoon with a quiet look on her face. "You got a visitor." I raised an eyebrow. "A client?" She hesitated. "No, it's your father." I froze. The air around me thickened. Lydia stepped back, giving me space, as if she knew instinctively not to say anything more. I found him standing outside, near the loading dock. He looked small. Not physically. He still had that broad-shouldered stance, but something about him had deflated. His coat was worn at the sleeves, and his shoes, once polished like mirrors, were scuffed and cracked. He turned when he saw me and didn't speak at first, just looked. Then finally, "This is yours?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. "I didn't know," he added. I kept my arms crossed. "You never asked." He sighed and looked down at the concrete. "I said some things I shouldn't have. That dinner wasn't the first time," I cut in. "Just the last time." He didn't argue. That surprised me more than anything. "I came because your mother asked me to," he admitted. "Said you deserved better than what you got." "Do you believe that?" I asked. He was quiet again. Then, "I don't know what I believe anymore. Everything I thought was solid is crumbling." I studied him. The way his hands trembled slightly, the way his voice had lost its edge. This wasn't a man in control. This was a man unraveling. Still, I didn't soften. Not yet. "You raised a son to believe he couldn't fail, and a daughter to believe she already had." He winced. "I see that now." I didn't offer comfort. Instead, I turned and gestured toward the road. "There's a coffee shop 2 blocks down. If you want to talk, I'll give you 10 minutes. That's it." He nodded. And for the first time in my life, I watched my father follow me. We sat at a small metal table outside the cafe, steam rising from our untouched mugs. My father stirred his coffee like it was something to do with his hands, not because he actually planned to drink it. "I wasn't kind to you," he said. No preamble, no hesitation, just blunt truth, like dropping a stone into a lake. "No, you weren't." "I thought I was being fair, honest, preparing you for the world." I let out a small laugh, bitter at the edges. "You prepared me for a world where love was conditional and silence was safer than speaking." He looked away. For a while, the only sound was traffic. Then he said, "I thought Patrick would fix things, carry the name, the business, the expectations. And I was what? A placeholder until the real child arrived?" His shoulders slumped. "You were always smart, but you weren't easy to understand. You questioned things, challenged me. Your brother just smiled and nodded. That's because he never intended to do the work." My voice was calm, but I knew it cut. Leonard rubbed a hand across his face. "He's not well," he said, finally. "He stays in bed most days, drinks at night, talks to himself sometimes. I've never seen him like this." I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, but because I'd learned not to rush into emotions I hadn't finished processing. "I'm not asking for your money," he said. "Or your help, really. I think I just needed to see you. As you are now." "And what do you see?" He looked straight at me, eyes damp but steady. "A woman I don't deserve to call my daughter, but I'm glad she exists." That cracked something open. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a flicker of something like relief. Still, I stood. "You asked for 10 minutes. They're up." He nodded. Didn't argue. Just stood as well, slower now. "I won't come to you again," he said. "Whatever you decide, that's yours. I'll respect it." And just like that, he turned and walked back toward his car, leaving me standing in the cold. Not broken, not triumphant, but changed. The following Sunday, I drove past my parents' house for the first time in 2 years. It looked the same: white shutters, weathered porch swing, rose bushes carefully pruned. But the windows were dimmer. It felt smaller. Like time had shrunk it. Or maybe I had just outgrown it. I parked around the corner and sat in my car, engine off, hands resting on the wheel. My heart beat faster than I liked. I hadn't planned to go in. I told myself I just wanted to see it, but I think I knew I'd end up at the door. Donna answered. Her face lit up with a mixture of relief and shame. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I'm not staying long," I said. She didn't protest, just stepped aside and let me in. The air inside smelled like lemon polish and something faintly burnt. Donna's nervous baking, no doubt. The walls were still covered in photos, but all the ones of Patrick seemed older now. None recent. None showing the man I knew he'd become. "He's upstairs," she said quietly. "He barely speaks to us anymore. But maybe—" I didn't wait for her to finish. I climbed the stairs slowly, one hand on the banister. The hallway was silent except for the faint creak of the floor beneath my feet. His door was cracked open. I pushed it gently. The room was dark, blinds drawn. The faint glow of a laptop screen lit Patrick's face. Hollow, gray, and unshaven. Empty bottles lined the desk. Clothes spilled from a hamper onto the floor. The poster of a luxury sports car still hung on the wall, a relic of dreams long dead. He didn't look up. "You're here to say I told you so?" he muttered. "No," I said. "I'm here to see who's left." He snorted. "That's rich." I stepped inside, arms crossed. "You know, for years I envied you. Thought you had everything. But now I think maybe you never had anything real." Patrick finally looked up. His eyes were bloodshot, but behind them was something new. Something close to shame. "I didn't think it would fall apart like this," he whispered. "I thought I could handle it." "You never learned how," I said, "because no one made you." We stared at each other, not as siblings, not as enemies, just two people standing among the wreckage of a house built on favoritism and silence. "I don't need your pity," he said. "You won't get it," I replied, "but I might give you something else, if you're ready for it." "What?" "A mirror." And then I left the door open behind me. I didn't hear from Patrick for days. I wasn't surprised. Some truths take time to settle, and some people resist mirrors until they break. But on Friday, just before closing, Lydia knocked on my office door. "There's someone here to see you," she said, her voice unusually gentle. Patrick stood in the lobby, wearing clean clothes and holding a manila folder. His hands were shaking. "I won't stay long," he said as he sat across from me. "Just hear me out." I nodded. "I've been talking to a lawyer," he began, "about making things right, restitution, even if it's small. The damage I did, I can't undo it, but I can stop running from it." That alone surprised me. "And this?" I asked, gesturing to the folder. He opened it and slid it across the desk. Inside were bank statements, case summaries, and letters, some apologetic, some angry, some from people who had trusted him. He looked up at me. I read everyone. The silence between us was heavy. "Do you know why I never fought back?" I finally said. "Why I didn't scream at Dad or demand fairness?" He shook his head. "Because I knew it wouldn't matter. The roles were already written. You were the favored son. I was the backup plan. But I didn't come here to rewrite the past. I came to close it. He nodded, eyes glistening. I understand that now. I didn't before. I leaned back in my chair. What do you want from me, Patrick? Nothing, he said. Just to say I'm sorry. And thank you for not kicking me when I was already down. I didn't answer right away. I didn't say, I forgive you. I didn't cry. I just looked at him, this man I had once envied, hated, and almost erased from my heart, and I saw something fragile trying to rebuild. You have a long way to go, I said. I know. He stood, hesitated, then walked to the door. Claire, he said, pausing with his hand on the knob, what you built, it's incredible. For the first time in our lives, there was no jealousy in his voice, just truth. And as the door closed behind him, I realized something. The girl they disowned had become the woman they could no longer ignore. 2 years ago, I walked out of my parents' home with nothing but my dignity. Today, I stood on a stage, in front of a room of business leaders and press, receiving an award for entrepreneurship. My company, once run out of a studio apartment and a single borrowed van, now employed over 40 people. It was thriving. It was mine. I adjusted the microphone. I was told once that I never brought anything good to my family. I said calmly. Those words stayed with me for a long time. They nearly broke me. But I learned something since then. Your worth isn't always seen by the people closest to you. Sometimes, you have to build a life that speaks louder than their silence. The room was still. Not out of pity, but respect. After the applause, I stepped down and walked through a sea of unfamiliar faces. But in the back row, I saw two I knew. My mother, her hands clasped tightly, eyes full of tears, and beside her, Leonard, quiet, aged, humbled. They hadn't asked to be invited. They just came. And for the first time, I was okay with that. Later, as the crowd dispersed, I found myself alone on the balcony, the city lights stretching out below me. Lydia appeared with a glass of champagne. You did it, she said, handing it to me. And you did it your way. I smiled. Not bad for the family disappointment. She raised her glass. To the quiet ones who end up speaking the loudest. I clinked mine against hers. A message buzzed on my phone. It was from Patrick. Started my first AA meeting today. I don't expect a medal. Just wanted you to know. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed back. Proud of you. Keep going. It wasn't everything, but it was enough. As the night air brushed against my skin, I realized something I never thought I would. I didn't need their apology anymore. I didn't need their validation. They were no longer the center of my story. I was.